Well, welcome news for Aussie investors. Global equities bounce and US equities gallop 4% ahead, taking US stocks out of correction territory. It comes for several key reasons. Joe Biden scored key primary wins, meaning he's closer to becoming the Democratic Party nominee for the presidential election. Could come head to head with Trump in November. Health stocks rallied on the news, their biggest gain since 2008, rising 6%, and the Nasdaq turned positive for the year, up 0.5% in 2020. Stocks were also boosted. Secondly, the US services sector grew more than expected last month, and payrolls also jumped more than forecast too. So welcome economic news. In other news, across the sea, the Bank of Canada joined the United States, China and Australia in slashing their interest rates. The Bank of Canada cut their overnight interest rate by 0.5% to 1.25%, their first cut since mid-2015. And yesterday, let's not forget, the Australian share market pulled back 1.7%, but earlier the futures were suggesting a rise of 1.8%, which means we should erase that loss. What to watch today? Well, there's plenty of good news. The timber pallet company Brambles, which owns the Shep business, was reiterated as a buy stock by Citi. Demand growth should continue for several key reasons, with an extra kick from the frenzy consumer stockpiling behaviour that we've seen of late, i.e. the toilet paper buying, and that increases the need for businesses to order pallets. Brambles is a defensive style stock, and 80% of their revenue comes from the food and beverage market. And Citi reckons about 80% of US freight capacity has now been locked into fixed price contracts. So that means they should have contracts coming for the next 6 to 8 months. Good news. And following the cloud business NEXTDC upgrading their full year earnings guidance yesterday after bagging in that hyperscale contract, it's been upgraded yet again by Citi, and Citi increased their price target by 5% to $9.55. Yesterday, we saw NXT shares rise 3% to $8.27. So that price target implies there's considerable upside in stock. Meantime, NAB announced that Mike Baird will step down from the Consumer Bank in April on the 15th. And the gold miner Newcrest Mining looks like it will have a flurry of buyers ramping up the stock, and early price opens suggest it should rise today after it finalised the sale of Newcrest Singapore Holdings for $90 million. $60 million is already paid, and $30 million remains payable for the next 18 months. And later today, Australia's balance of trade data is out for January. In the US, we'll get their January import and export data on our Saturday. Just quickly calling out how markets rounded up overnight. Well, the Dow was up 4.3 or 1,119 points. The S&P up 4.2 and the Nasdaq up almost 4%. In Europe, London's FTSE rose the most, 1.5. The Stock 600 up 1.4, with the French and German markets following. Gold, meantime, has lost a bit of momentum. It's now $1,639, still holding on to those multi-year highs. Oil has slipped. It's now 47.10 a barrel, and the iron ore price is up slightly, 87.1 a tonne, and the Australian dollar is bouncing back to 66 US cents. It's 66.2 US cents.